Hi, I'm with Mike Carding. Mike used to be a very good runner back in the day. He's going to give us a little bit of his time this morning to tell us about life as a runner. How you doing, Mike?
Morning, Leon.
Thank you for your time. Brilliant. Right, so we've just had a really good summer with the Olympics, the Paralympics. How close were you to reaching Olympic standard?
Tricky to say. I mean, times-wise, probably not a million miles away. My main problem was that my senior career never really got started through injury. Had a good junior career, and just sort of 18, 19, 20, when you're trying to make that transition up to senior level, injuries played a part, and also life got in the way. I had to start work and things like that. So as a youngster, I dreamt of it, but it didn't quite happen, unfortunately.
How old were you when you started running? I mean, all kids run. At some point, what point did you sort of think, this is for me?
Well, just started at school really, sports days and things like that, probably age 7, 8, realised I had some sort of talent there, and my mum and dad took me down the local athletics track. I started doing sprints there, found out that maybe the slightly longer distances were more my thing, and just went from there really. And it was kind of self-perpetuating. I was getting better and better the more I wanted to do it, and just went from there, but really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. Were you playing other sports as well at the time, or did you?
Yeah, played football quite serious level. I had trials for Notts County and Notts Forest as a kid, but it got to the point where I was playing football for a team one weekend and then running for a club the next weekend, and I was letting one or the other down, and I think I must have been about 12 or 13, and my dad said, you have to knock one of them on the head because you can't keep letting them down, and I chose to knock the football on the head.
Chose to run.
Yeah.
That's probably good. I mean, I think the best way to develop in any sport is to play multiple sports until you're about 12, 13 to become a better all-round athlete. If you chose to go down the running route there, what was your distance?
I found out a bit later on, sort of middle distances were my thing, so 800, 1500 were my main events. I'd have a foray occasionally over 5,000 on the track, and then we'd go on the road in the winter and do 10Ks and things like that, but 8:15 on the track really.
Yeah. I've had a lot of success. You won the Midlands Championships?
Yeah, won the Midlands Championships twice, won the County Championships 6 or 7 times in Leicestershire. Yeah, broke a few county records. I think one of them still stands today. Yeah. That's 20 odd years ago. But yeah, reasonable sort of regional, national standard maybe.
Oh, brilliant. And then that sort of led you to moving down to London. I believe you moved in a house with Kenyan runners, world record holders.
Unbelievable times
Olympic
for me.
champions.
Yeah, so
must have been a big house.
Yeah, quite. Well, as a youngster doing my events, you think who are the best athletes in the world at your events, and obviously Kenyans were the best over the distance events. And I was looking for a job at the time, and there was a weekly publication that came out, Athletics Weekly, which I used to get, and I was flicking through the classifieds one day, and I saw they were looking for a shop assistant in a sports shop in Teddington. Now I heard of Teddington because I knew that these Kenyan guys were based there. There was a sports agent called Kim McDonald, who's died now, but he basically looked after all the Kenyan athletes, and I knew they were based in Teddington, so I thought, well, maybe I can get down there and have a couple of runs with these guys. So I managed to get the job at the sports shop, moved down there, and I slept on my mate's sofa for 7 months, and he came to me one day and said, look, you can't carry on doing this because I want my lounge back. And through making a few inquiries, I managed to make contact with this Kim McDonald and asked him if he'd got any rooms. I found out he owned 3 houses in Teddington. And he said I could go and rent a room, 59 Park Lane in Teddington, with these guys. He did warn me. He said, it's a bit third world in there. They're all Africans. He said they come straight over from Kenya. They live like they're still in Kenya. He said there'll be a lot of people coming and going throughout the year. Obviously in the summer months it's most busy because they all base themselves in London, ready for the European Grand Prix athletics circuit. And so I went down there, and yeah, couldn't believe it. Walked in, I thought I recognised that chap there, a guy called Paul Radcliffe. Might not mean anything to a lot of people, but he's won 2 silver medals in the Olympics, 84 and 88 over 5,000 metres. Moses Kiptanui, multiple world champion and world record over the steeplechase. Later there was other guys that broke world records, Daniel Komen. And yeah, some funny stories along the way.
Yeah.
Good times.
So you can't really imagine now these guys training in London. The big thing now at the moment is altitude training. Is that not so much a big thing back then? Or?
What you have to bear in mind with these guys is that majority of them are born in the Rift Valley in Kenya. So that's at 7,000 feet altitude. So they've grown up at altitude.
Yeah.
They come down to London for 3 or 4 months in the summer to base themselves there for the European circuit. So by the time they get down, they've done all their altitude training and they go back home for 8 months in the winter. So it was a big thing then, but to them, they're born like that anyway. So they've got a natural advantage over Europeans anyway in that respect. Added to the fact they work bloody hard as well, and yeah, you can see why they get so good.
I mentioned this in another interview I've done before about a book called The Gold Mine Effect, and it was Rasmus Ankerson. He went to, I think, Kenya and spent a bit of time running there. He went to lots of different talent hotbeds around the world, like the Jamaicans to see the sprinters, a little tennis club in Russia that's produced numerous top 10, top 100 players. And his conclusion was it was the hard work more than anything, because I think people have talked about why these Kenyans from this particular part of Kenya as well so good. And he certainly tried to train with them. Their work rate is unbelievable, and their threshold of pain, when they got to the point where most people would think our body's had enough, they'd go through that.
I think there's a number of factors. I totally agree with you, and I've seen this firsthand as well. The first thing to say is there's a town in the Rift Valley called Eldoret, and it's in the record books. They've had more Olympic champions from this one town, probably the size of Tiptree, than any other place in the world. And that's no fluke.
I think that's the place we went to. I mean, I read this book a couple of years ago. I think that's where he went. And yeah, he's incredible. Unbelievable.
But also bear in mind that the average annual wage in Kenya is £60, £5 a month. So they're in abject poverty. And for these guys, if they can break through onto the European circuit and earn themselves $10,000, that's a life changer for them and their families. So the incentive's there from day one to get out. But you talk about the work rate. There's 3 things that are cornerstones of their training. It has to be systematic, so there needs to be a system to it. If you go out and run 10 miles every day in an hour, you'll become very good at running 10 miles in an hour. If you want to run very fast over 1,500 metres, you have to tailor your training to that. So there needs to be a system to it. The second thing is it needs to be progressive. So if you're running 10 times 400 metres with a minute's rest in 62 seconds today, in 2 weeks' time, you need to either be running them in 60 seconds, you need to reduce your rest time, or you need to do more reps. So it needs to be progressive. And the third thing, the most simple thing, it needs to be hard. If you're going to bother putting your gear on, going out the door, make sure it's worth it. And Steve Cram said that to me actually years ago. If you're going to bother going to the track, make sure you get something out of it. Don't just go there and try and look good in all your gear. Turn up and make it count. And that's what they do better than anyone. And not only do they work harder than anyone else, they're better at everything. They rest better than we do.
That's a very good, he mentions that in the book. Even their rest is, like, say, calculated and a huge part, and there's not distractions. They're either putting all their effort into the working hard or the rest, and the rest is proper rest.
Unbelievable. And that was one of my downfalls when I was running. I didn't know how to rest. And I was chatting to one of these guys one day, and I said, I don't seem to be able to take it easy on a run. Some of the runs they go out on, and they call it a recovery run. So they go out and turn their legs over. They'll be running at 40% just to get the blood flowing and clear the lactic out. I wasn't able to do that. I used to think, I've got to go out and work hard. And this guy turned to me one day and he said, Mike, he went, if you've got a lovely rose bush in your garden with all beautiful flowers on it, he went, would you dig it up to see if the roots are okay? And I didn't quite know what he meant at the time, but you think about it, it makes sense, doesn't it? If that looks good up there, then underneath something's going well.
Yeah, foundations.
But with these guys, they're all full-time athletes. As I say, a lot of them were world Olympic champions, world record holders. So their daily routine, they'd be up at 5:30 in the morning. In Teddington, we have Bushy Park on our doorstep, which is a fantastic park for running. It's 7.5 miles around the perimeter, nice and flat, nice parkland, and they'd meet there in the morning at the gates, 5-10 minutes stretching, and off they'd go. And I used to join in with these runs sometimes, and you'd start off barely faster than walking pace, and I would think, what's this all about? And after a couple of miles, it'd get quicker and quicker and quicker, and by the end, you'd have blood coming out of your ears, and your eyes would be hanging off, and fantastic. I'd get home, tea and toast, straight back to bed. I'd be off to work, they'd go back to bed. Middle of the day, a chap would come round, one of Kim's workers, and he'd go, right, you, we're down the track. We'd take them down to Kingston upon Thames to the track, they'd do a track session, come back, bit of lunch, back to bed. Back up in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, they'd be out for another run, could be anything from 4 miles to 10 miles, every day, and that's what they do. And I said to one of the guys one day, you're full-time athletes, why don't you just get up at 9 o'clock, have a run, bit to eat, go down the track in the afternoon, go for another run in the evening. And he quite simply said, in Kenya, we get up when the sun comes up and we go to bed when it sets. And that's their mindset. It's so simple, they work so hard, and how can you beat it?
That's such a good point. I think that's something that so many people forget about, how important the rest is, and you've just highlighted it there. How important the rest is to them, and how they can find the energy then to push themselves harder than most people, because they take the rest so serious. You made another good point as well, I think they made in the book, about the hunger. I think when Rasmus Ankersen went to these different talent hotbeds, none of them had amazing facilities, all run down places, and everyone was hungry. And it's that hunger really, I think, makes people work so hard. I think you can be a little bit too pampered, and you lose that hunger.
Yeah, definitely. Well, these guys never work like that, and I've run with some really good athletes from the UK that worked very, very hard. But I think the first person from these shores in recent times that realised that we need to copy what these guys are doing was Paula Radcliffe. Now, I knew Paula because she was at Loughborough University, and I was at Leicester. We would run together sometimes. And Paula realised that these guys were head and shoulders above, so she went to Kenya, she saw what they were doing, she copied them, and you saw the results. Marathon record holder, world cross country champion, etc. And obviously in more recent times, the guy that's not only copied but outdone them is Mo Farah. And he stays in Kenya for a few months every year. He's based in the US, but he lives very, very simply. For all the wealth and fame he's accumulated through his achievements, he moves away from his family. He basically, it's almost like a prison regime, and he lives very simply, he eats very simply, there's no flashiness about it, and you've seen the results.
He just put a perfect demonstration of what it takes to make it. In the running, in tennis, in football, the competition is so much that if you're not going to put that effort in, I've sort of compared, a good example, Conor McGregor in UFC. He says there's no talent here, it's an obsession. You have to be obsessed with it. Without that obsession, you're not going to put in that extra few percent that everyone else is, and that's what makes a difference at the top.
Well, a guy came to our house in the winter, and I recognised him, but I didn't quite know who he was. And he was about 4'10" tall, and I asked around, and his name was Juma, Ikkanga, and he was a marathon runner from Tanzania. I think the best he ever managed in London was third, not bad, but he pretty much won every other big city marathon: New York, Boston, Rotterdam, Berlin. He ran 2:07, which at the time was a world record. Fantastic athlete, and he was a colonel in the Tanzanian army. And during the winter, it was only me and him in the house at one point. He was training for one of the big marathons, Chicago, I think it was, and he was there. And one Sunday morning, I asked him if he was going for a Sunday run. Now, Sunday, for athletes, distance runners, Sunday is when they generally do their long run of a week. So that could be 15 miles, 12 miles, 15 miles for a middle distance runner. For a marathon runner, it could be anything up to 22 miles if they're preparing. So I asked him if I could join him on his run one Sunday. He said, "Of course, mate. Yes, no problem. My pleasure." So he said, "We got all our gear on," and he said, "You wait here. I'll back and pick you up in 1 hour." I went, "Okay." So off he went running. I was waiting outside an hour later, and he came past, and we then ran probably an hour and 40 minutes, which is probably 15, 16 miles. Got back to the house, he dropped me off, and he then went out for another hour and a half. And when he got back, I said, "Jim, how far have you ran there?" He said, 40 miles. I said, "Why on earth are you running 40 miles? And he said, "That is nothing." He said, "Where I live in Tanzania," he said, "Have you heard of Mount Kilimanjaro?" I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "I live at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro." He said, "Next to Mount Kilimanjaro is the Nyangaro crater. This is where an asteroid crashed into the Earth millions of years ago." He said, "Once a month, I leave my home in the morning." He said, "I run around the base of Kilimanjaro and then round the edge of the Nyangaro crater." I said, "How far is that, Juma?" He said, 57 miles. I said, "That's ridiculous. What are you doing that for?" And he said to me, "The will to win is nothing without the will to prepare." He said, "When I line up for a marathon, I look around, I know that guy's run 22 miles, I know he can run 26 miles. He went, I can run more than double that, no problem." And what sort of mindset do you need to do stuff like that? That's ridiculous. But because he was so small and slight, wasn't ever trouble with injuries, so got away with it. But unbelievable mental strength to be able to do that.
What great sayings I think saying there, it's not the will to win. Everyone has that. It's the will to prepare. That's what sets a lot of athletes aside.
Absolutely.
So suddenly you had some amazing. How long were you in this house for? Amazing
just
stories.
under 3 years.
Under 3 years.
Yeah, got more stories than that.
Yeah.
If you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The house was quite busy at one point, and this guy turned up, Kenyan guy, and he was quite fat. Not portly, he was fat. And I said, "Are you looking for someone?" And he came in, he says, "No, my name's William Kemei." He says, "I'm here to train." And William Kemei, the year before, was the second fastest miler in the world, behind a chap called Noureddin Morsali, who was ripping up the tracks everywhere. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I spoke to one of the other chaps, and he said, "Oh yes, yeah, he'd be okay in a few weeks." So the next morning, we assembled at Bushy Park. He had 3 wetsuits on, and over the 7.5 miles, he was probably about 6 minutes behind us, so he was a good mile behind us. A couple of weeks later, he was a bit closer, and then he was stuck with us. A few weeks later, he was in front of us, and he'd lost all this weight. He used to drink lemon tea to reduce his weight, and about a week after that, he went over to Oslo for the Dream Mile, and he won that in 3 minutes and 48. He went from being a fat bloke to best in the world in probably 8 or 9 weeks. It was unreal.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the other funny one was a chap called Daniel Komen, and we had a 3-storey townhouse. And you've got to bear in mind with these guys as well, where they come from is very hot on the equator. So my bedroom was on the top floor, and we had 2 single beds in this room, and I shared a room with this Daniel Komen, and in the middle of the summer, they would have the heating on full blast, 24 hours a day. So it's really, really uncomfortably warm. asleep with your windows open. It's ridiculous. And this Daniel Komen, very soft, quietly spoken chap, and he said, Mike, he said, tomorrow night, he said, I'm flying to Zurich. Now, the Weltklasse meeting in Zurich is well known, or the other name, they call it the Olympics in one night. They have all the stars there, they have a load of world records broken. He said, I'm running over 3,000 metres. He said, I'm going to try for the world record. I went, okay, Daniel, that's great. I think the world record was 7 minutes 30 at the time. His best was 7:32. He said, will you watch me on the television? I went, I will. I look forward to that. Well, I watched him 24 hours later, cover 7.5 laps of the track in 7 minutes 25, absolutely smashing the world record. The next day, he came into our shop. Everyone was going, wow, that's that guy off the telly that broke the world record last night. He said, Mike, did you watch me last night? I said, I did. That was amazing, Daniel. Well done. Congratulations. He said, when you get home tonight, I've got something to show you. I went, fantastic, Daniel. That's brilliant. Gone upstairs to our room. He got a sports hold all out, and in it, he got $30,000 US. The meet promoter paid him in cash, because obviously a lot of these Kenyans don't have bank accounts. You can't pay them a cheque or a wire transfer. He got a hold all full of US dollars. And yeah, but very, very nice guy to boot. Yeah.
Definitely met some amazing characters, as well as unbelievable athletes.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that still keeps rearing its head at the moment is drugs in sport.
Mm-hmm.
Being that close to all these athletes, did you see any sniff of anything like that back in the day?
Nothing at all.
No,
nothing at all. We had, as I say, this guy Kim had 3 houses in Teddington. The Kenyans were based in one. He had American, Aussies and Kiwis and Canadians based in another. And the third one was for the sort of elite, old stages. So this Moses Kiptanui, Sonia O'Sullivan, good Irish athlete back in the day, they would stay in this third one. I never saw anything like that at all. But as we touched on, what I did see was bucket loads of hard work and determination. And there's no secret. These guys, you can speak to them, they will tell you what they do. They will show you what they do. They will let you join in if you can. But it's, no need for it.
Are you surprised that it took so long for people to start thinking, well, if these guys are doing this, maybe we should do the same thing?
I am surprised.
Paula Radcliffe is probably the first one. Surprised it didn't take someone sooner to think, they're the best, let's copy what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, we've always had good distance runners in this country. I mean, back in the 70s, you had David Bedford. He was well known for running over 200 miles a week, so damn hard worker. Ian Stewart. All these guys are real tough characters that work really, really hard. But obviously later on it became more professional, and as with any sport, once the money starts being injected, people step up the level. And these guys are training 2-3 times a day, every single day. But a lot of our guys, over recent years, we've had the National Lottery funding, which has helped. It's allowed a lot of our promising athletes to either not work or work part-time in a way that was never available before. But obviously these guys are professionals, they don't work, this is their job. And unfortunately for us, unless you do get lottery funding, people have to go to work. And whether it's sitting in front of a computer, it's still using up energy. So it's very, very tricky. Unless you get someone that's very talented and that's got financial backing as well to allow them to develop, and they're prepared to work really hard as well, then we're never going to get on par with these guys. But as I say, Mo Farah's managed to not only do that, but beat them at their own game.
He sure has. We're talking about that. I spoke to you earlier actually about, I think Paula Radcliffe says you should run about 120 miles a week.
More than that sometimes.
What's the most you've heard about someone running?
Well, I knew of a guy that ran 250 miles a week. I mean, Juma would run consistently over 200 miles a week. But what generally tends to happen is that you'll do blocks of training. So Paula, for example, she'd be running 100, 110 miles a week. She might, for 2 or 3 weeks, step up and run 150 miles and then back down, because obviously the body will break down. some of these guys at Juma, he have a 10-week block. He'd be doing 200 miles a week for 10 weeks. Now, most people's bodies just can't cope with that sort of punishment. I mean, we spoke about the importance of the rest before and how they're superior to us. We used to have a physiotherapist and a masseuse that would come around the house and treat the runners. So obviously that's a big part of staying fit and healthy. And even they said to me, they're even better at receiving massage than we are. And I said, what do you mean by that? If you've ever had a sports massage, as I'm sure you have, it's not a nice experience. They dig their thumbs in, their elbows. It's quite painful because they're getting deep into the tissue, which helps the muscles repair. The natural tendency is to tense up. And the lady physio said to me, the Kenyans have an ability to relax into the massage in a way that a lot of us don't. So they're even better at that.
They get more benefit from that as well.
Than us. So in every aspect of their training, they're just superior.
It's interesting, I mean, almost went into their technology as well. That kind of makes it easier in a little way to avoid injuries. But on the other hand, you've got the Kenyans that have no technology and they're still leading the way. If you could get that balance, do you think that could make a difference in this country?
It could make a difference. I think.
Are we going the wrong road if we're worrying about technology rather than just keeping it simple like the Kenyans and concentrating purely on the hard work?
You could have a pair of £150 Nike trainers with as many airbags as you care to mention, and that will go some way to help prevent injury. It's not going to make you faster.
No.
It's not going to make you work any harder. You might look good down the track or whatever, but you go to Kenya, these guys are running in bare feet most of the time on dirt tracks. They don't need all this. And then when they do come over and they're given pairs of Nike shoes, you've seen the results. So we probably are going down the wrong road, really. Yeah.
Are you still running yourself now?
Not competitive. Try and do a bit just to keep the beer off, but I do a little bit. I'm just prone to injuries these days. I'm getting old now as well, but I still enjoy it. Love it.
You still enjoy? Because it must be strange doing it when you've done it so many hours, and obviously you've got your level so high. To not have the same level, to not have putting the same hours, do you get the same enjoyment from it?
I can now. At first, I would feel guilty if I had a day off training. If I got a cold or something and I needed a day off, I'd sometimes go out when I didn't feel well, and that would put me back a few more days. I'd feel like I was getting fat and putting weight on because I was obsessed with doing it. Once I realised that my competitive days were done, that all disappeared really. So I do enjoy it now. I don't enjoy going out in the freezing cold, the wind and the rain, as we used to have to. But on a nice summer's day, go in the park and run 5, 6, 7 miles, nothing better.
And I guess you still watch a lot of athletics, running.
Obviously the major championships. I watch the Grand Prix series in the summer. Still love it. And obviously all the events are moving on. The world records have been lowered all the time.
The world records just seem to be getting blown away more and more.
Fantastic. Yeah, really good.
If anyone watching there would like some tips, what tips would you give, just to finish off, would you give any young aspiring athletes out there?
Well, with running, it's a solo sport, so you get out what you put in. And when you're very young, as you said before, Leon, enjoying is the key to it. So go down your local track, try the sprints, try the distances, try and throw the javelin, try the high jump, see what you're good at, see what you enjoy. Once you do find something, then give it a good go, work really hard at it. It's pretty easy when you're young. Talent will shine through when you're young, and obviously people grow at different ages.
Size as well, big factor, isn't it, when you're young?
So that all plateaus off when you sort of get into your mid to late teens, and then you'll find the ones that work hardest will come to the fore, basically, and that's when all your naturally talented kids that haven't got the aptitude to work hard, they'll drop off and go into other things. And the hard workers, they're the ones that will come through, really. So enjoy it, find what you're good at, and when you do, just work damn hard.
Work hard, that's a big thing to come out of this, and rest well as well.
Absolutely.
and relax when you get a massage.
Ease into the massage.
Ease into the massage. Well, Mike, this has been fascinating. Hear about your stories. Loved every minute of it.
Enjoyed it.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Neil.
much. Really enjoyed
Good
that.
man.
Thank you.
Thank you.